Hey everybody, I'm Becca and I'm sharing this video with you because I care about each and every one of you very much. I was inspired to make this video after our page admin, Alicia, shared a post asking about food triggers and dietary approaches to see if there's any common themes. If you're following that post, you probably know that or notice that there are a ton of different things that are triggering symptoms in women. There's a few frequent flyers like sugar and alcohol. Everybody knows that I can't eat corn for whatever reason. The big question I get the most is, how do you know what to eat and what not to eat? And how did you figure out it was corn? So that's a long story that involves seeing a clinical nutritionist who practices something called morphogenic field technique. It's extremely rare to find someone who knows about this approach. So if you're struggling to find someone who can help you, I totally understand. I was really fortunate that there's a world-renowned practitioner of the practice from my hometown who I was connected with through a series of coincidences. And I'm going to share with you something I learned from her that anyone can do anywhere, anytime. And this is really important because this was the first thing I did to figure out what I could and could not eat. And this is also how I found a safe chocolate that I can eat. I know a lot of you said you can't eat chocolate, and there's probably a couple of different reasons why. Mostly is that most chocolate is alkalized with a corn-based ethanol, and so most chocolate is contaminated with corn before they even add any sweetener to it. So regardless of what kind of sweetener's in it, a lot of times chocolate is a no-go because of the corn contamination. It's not ubiquitous that everybody's going to be reactive to corn, but it's pretty common. If you're in the United States, it's probably because of all the fancy ways they grow it. All of that notwithstanding, whether it's corn or some other thing, if you're struggling to figure it out, I'm going to show you a really quick method to see if you should, or how I see if I should or should not eat something. I'm going to start with a glass of water. You should remember that water is our first medicine, and you should always drink more water. Your body is always going to have a positive response to water when you test it this way. And so if you want to try this out yourself, water is a good verifier, if you will. So you hold what you're trying to test at heart center, like you're doing yoga, and you have your feet together about hip width apart. You can do this in bare feet, socks, flat shoes, not as much with your high heels. And you kind of imagine like you have a string coming out the top of your head that runs from your spine all the way out the bottom, and it's holding you like as upright as you can, and you just kind of let go and see which way your body floats. And so because water is going to resonate with you as long as it's clean, you should float forward slightly. You should feel yourself being pulled forward. And this is called a positive response, and an indicator that you should eat, or that you can eat or drink whatever you're holding without experiencing symptoms, or at least that's how it worked for me. Despite this sounding really hokey, because it does, let's agree, this sounds a little weird, I was super skeptical. One of the things that was the most overwhelming about tackling diet and nutrition was that AIP, which is commonly recommended and works really well for some people, doesn't allow coffee. And I got to tell you what, I couldn't do that. And so when I do this, I'll show you sideways now so you can see what's happening. My body apparently doesn't mind the coffee at all, because when I hold it at heart center and do this process, my body pulls forward. It's so weird. My husband's like, how do you know? How do I know you're not just making this up? I know you want to drink that coffee. And I was like, hand me a beer, right? I can't drink beer anymore. I get a negative response every time. I think it's because the barley is shipped in bags and they have anti-caking coagulants in it, which is often like a cornstarch or a plant cellulose, which could be contaminated with corn. Here's another thing that I would love to eat right now. It's a Milky Way. My 9-year-old hoards her Halloween candy, so I went and got a piece for this video. And if you hold it and you watch what happens when I hold this and do the same thing, it's sadly pushing me backwards. And that's an indication that you shouldn't eat it. It's really simple. You can do this anywhere, anytime. You might look a little funny, but I've done it in restaurants. I've kicked off my business shoes, my heels in a restaurant and stood in my bare feet to test food because the stakes are really high. You know, when I first started this journey and when I agreed to do this kind of hokey, weird thing, I did it because I had nothing left and I was straight up feeling suicidal. I couldn't imagine spending the rest of my life being in excruciating pain every time I just wanted to go pee. It was so hard. And I was like, this can't be it. This ointment and good luck from the vulva specialist can't be the only thing that I can do. So I went everywhere. I went all in. You should have seen me in the grocery store aisle looking at chocolate. I thought to myself, organic chocolate, you know, made with cane sugar. I should be able to eat this. Why can't I eat this? For whatever reason, every time. So I did find there's a few brands, and if you start reading the ingredients list, you'll see a theme here, but this is raw cacao, or cacao, like my husband calls it. And I get a positive response on this because it is not it's not ethylated in the process with the corn, or with a corn-based ethanol. So I can eat this one. They're a little more expensive, but I still eat them like a 50-cent special at the gas station because they're halfway decent. They're not nearly as good as that Milky Way. I kind of miss that kind of thing, but I don't pay for it. And I'm totally symptom-free by doing this method and just figuring out where my body gives a positive and negative response and eating accordingly. So I hope you found this informative. Good luck on your journeys, ladies.